everyone. Welcome again to our first session for 2022 as we start our focus on training. And tonight, we're going to have a great experience learning how to create a script and content for videos with Sister Shireen. So, we're going to give her the maximum amount of time to share. So, without further ado, we're going to have a quick prayer and then we turn over the microphone to Sister Shireen. So, let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gifts that you have given us. And as we spend this time learning how to communicate effectively, we pray that the lessons transform how we communicate with each other. In this, the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Good, what is it, afternoon? I never get this right. Good afternoon, evening. You know, in the Caribbean, I think evening is like run till like 8 o'clock and then it's night. I don't know. Whatever time it is where you are, that's what I'm going to leave it at. Welcome to the training. I'm so happy to see all of you joining. Tonight, we're going to strictly focus on how do I create content? And I know Pastor put engaging. I don't know if I'm going to be engaging, but you're going to know how to create content by the time I'm done. And so what we're going to do tonight is go through a couple of examples, and we are going to walk through some ideas around how do I start to create a content. But before we do that, I want to just give you a quick did you know question here. But in 2022, which we're in right now, online videos will make up more than 82%. Can you believe that? 82%. That's up 15 times since 2017. So this training is perfect. Pastor must have predicted it, thought about it. Like he's like, I know what's coming. I got a little, birdie told me, on the windowsill one day. And so that's why we're here, because 82% of our viewers are going to be looking at videos more so than our traditional ways, which is flyers or walking around with, like Pastor said in another sermon, tracks. And so we have to figure out how do we engage our audience in a different platform, because 82% of them are going to be viewing it this way. For those of you who joined us in November, when we first introduced this concept, I went over a few things with you, and I just want to do a quick recap for those of you who were there. And for those of you who weren't there, this is just to give you a teaser of what I'm about to go over. So one of the things that I want you to remember when you're thinking about any kind of presentation, you definitely want to think about your audience. Who is it that I'm going to be talking to, with, about what? And then what's in it for me really means why should I listen to you? So why should I turn to your video? And if those of you are on YouTube, you can see how our YouTubers are presenting their information because they want you to click on their videos. So what's in it for me? Start with the end in mind was a concept that I introduced in November. If you're thinking about writing your content, you might not have the beginning, but what is it that you want them to do at the end of it? So for me, when you have that in mind, the end in mind, it starts to help you trigger, well, okay, if I know this is my end goal, then here's where I need to start. Consider the length of your presentation is very, very important. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more in this presentation, because again, our attention spans, it seems like it's dwindling every year. It's getting smaller and smaller. We don't want it to, but that's just the nature of where we are. And I think it's because we have so much to choose from. We have so many options. So as soon as I get bored with, I'm like, oh, you're boring. I'm going to skip to the next one, or I'm going to skip to the next one, because so that's the nature of where we are in society right now. Then deliver your presentation like a story. Now, most people like say, Shireen, I have great stories. I'm not saying to go and tell me one time at band camp, this is what I did and start from A to Z. No, I want you to do relatable stories that your audience can connect to, because the goal here, like Pastor said, is to engage your audience. And then the next word I'm going to have you use is to connect with your audience. And stories tend to do that very well. Look at your audience is another key one. I watch many, many videos, whether they're on YouTube. Look at Pastor. He's like, can you see the whites in my eyes? Right? So you want to make sure that you're looking at your audience. And last time we were here, I gave you a little trick that when your camera is right here, you can tell now that I'm looking straight in the camera and I'm not looking at my Zoom layout, or am I looking at my PowerPoint? I'm looking directly at the camera. So therefore you feel the sense that Shireen is talking to me, right? You know, when Uncle Sam, I want you, right? America, I want you. So that's the connection that you want to build with your audience. And then lastly, use words with emotional content or context to it that will pull your audience in. Depending on what you're delivering, you may not be able to use emotional content. However, think about what is it that I could use to help my audience come in and be with me and stay with me in this presentation. Is it, again, going back to the story, is it telling something personal? Is it using humor? What is it that I'm going to use to connect with the audience? So that was what I kind of mentioned in November. Now, today I want to dive a little bit deeper, take you into a little bit more. How do I do this, Shireen? So our agenda for today looks like this. We're going to understand the need for a script. Don't get scared by the word script. I know most of you might know the word script in terms of a director's script or a movie filming. That's not what we mean. Script is really, I'm going to write something down. So what's the need for me to write something down or get my thoughts together? And then we're going to look at the length of a video. What is the appropriate length of videos? And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to identify some questions to help us write that script, to help us get those thoughts on paper. So let's dive into the first one, which is what's the need for a script? Why do I need to write this down? The script is essentially the blueprint to any successful video. Without a script, you have no plan and no defined flow of your story or the information that you're trying to give to the audience. In fact, if you don't have a script, you don't have a story. You don't have a message that you're trying to give, because technically that is the message. Writing of the script, writing of this content down is the message. So what we want to do is to find those elements. We want to make sure that we have a flow. And a well-written script leads to, and I don't want you to quote me on this, but it could lead you to a very successful video. And so if you have something written down, you're on your way to being successful. So the time that you spend doing this is going to help to promote, to help bring your audience together. It gives you purpose and it gives you a vision. Think of it like, I want to get from Trumbull Ave to Main Street. Your script is going to help you find that right street, path, whatever it is, to get you to Main Street. Without a script, you're going to be wandering around Bridgeport. You're going to be like, should I go this way, left or right? The script is your roadmap in other words. And then my favorite piece is the length of the video. So many of you know me for the children's story that I do. And I could look at a Word document and say to my husband, nope, that's 5 minutes. Nope, that's going to be only 2 minutes. Just by looking at how many pages or how many words look like they're on the page, because you can immediately see that, but especially if you're doing voice work, oh boy, that's going to take me a long time to read. So that's about a 6-minute video. And it's so funny when I do that and we actually do the recording that I'm spot on. And he actually says, where are you going with that 3-pager? That's like 12 minutes, Shireen. I'm like, okay, let me narrow down that 3-pager down to a page and a half. And then, that's when we're successful, because we have to find that sweet spot. Now, who's my audience for when I tell children's story, right? It's kids. So what's that sweet spot with kids and not losing them too much? And so that's what we play around with. But for you, with these quick videos that we want to distribute and have ready for the church, the guideline by this, my sources, lemonlight.com, they recommend on average that a person's attention span may not be more than 60 seconds. So they said, okay, if that's the case, you could probably get away with 30 seconds to 2 minutes to hold a person. And so therefore, you want to make sure that your videos or your content is simple and short and gets the message across effectively. So keep those numbers in range. So if you have 60 words, you're about at 30 seconds, and so on and so forth. A minute, you're roughly 120, and so on and so forth. So think about, what is it I'm trying to convey? How am I going to convey it? And then how, the wording is going to help you determine the time as well. Now, I'm not going to talk about sermons. That's not my area of expertise. Sermons are a whole other ball of wax. That's pastor. If you want to ask him how he preps for a sermon and how long, that you can go right ahead and text him and email him and spam him and Slack him or whatever you want to do. just go ahead and do that with him. But tonight we're talking about those quick hit videos, and this is the recommended average that's out there right now. Now, the last slide I'm going to talk about before we go into you participating with me is the question. What I like to is like a checklist or a guideline or a template to work with. So these are the 5 key questions for an effective script. Are they the end all be all? No, there are probably 7, 8, 9, 10 more questions you could add to it. But for tonight, we're just going to go over these 5 because I feel like they're quick, they're easy, and you can write a script after, right? As soon as you come off the Zoom, you can write yourself a script. I promise you that, right? So what is the goal? Now, I know I told you audience is the first thing you need to think about. It is. So it's like a very close second. It's like a 1A and 1B right now. But for the purpose of this, we're going to call it number 2. But what is your goal should be the first thing you think about. Why am I doing this? Why do I want to make a video? Why do I want to get a message across to the congregation or whomever your audience is? And then the second thing is your audience. You definitely have to think about your audience. If you don't think about your audience, you will end up with something that's not effective. So for example, my husband, when we're creating the children's stories, he's a very black and gray and dark blues type of guy. I have to tell him like, wait a minute, remember our audience. Our audience are children. So can I get some bright blues, some, baby blues, some bright yellows? And he's like, right. I got you, right? So if you left it up to him, it would be like dark blues and whatever. And I want to pick on Brother St. Cloud. When he does a children's flyer, you can immediately see the difference between a children's flyer and an adult flyer. And that's because of his use of color, and he knows who his audience is. So I want you guys to really think about, who am I trying to target here? Who is my audience? The third thing is, what's the topic? Now, again, going back to YouTube videos, you notice that they will use some splashy words just to grab your attention to click on their video. But for you, when you're writing your script, what is your topic? What's going to trigger for you to help you write the content of this? So what is your topic going to be? What are the key takeaways at the end of the video? You have to think about that as well when you're writing your script. And then the call to action. What is a call to action? It's really, what do you want people to do after they finish watching your video? If there's anything, if it's applicable. So these 5 questions, I feel like they will help you start the process of writing a really great script. So let's test if you've heard anything that I've said so far. I'm going to present to you a scenario, and then we're going to have a series of multiple choice questions. And you, the audience, you're going to use the chat feature, or it's a small group. We're friends here, we're family. You can unmute and you can answer the question if you like, and I'll keep a track of what you've said. So let's get into our scenario, and we'll start with meeting our friend Marcus. Now, I've talked a lot. I love Sister McLean. I'm going to have Sister McLean read our scenario. Look at, she's like, what, Shereen? I didn't know you were going to call on me. What you doing? So go ahead, Sister McLean, and read the scenario of Marcus. Introduce Marcus for us.
Okay, meet Marcus. I have been painting homes professionally for over 30 years. I recently moved to Connecticut with my family. After working for others, I am now interested in starting my own business. With spring right around the corner, I am hoping that I can come up with an innovative way to spread the word about my business and begin lining up job opportunities for spring.
Thank you so much, Sister McLean. Very, very well read. Now, I hope you guys are paying attention what Sister McLean read, because here we go. The first question is, what is Marcus's goal? Now, in the chat, you could tell me if it's A, B, C, or D, or you can unmute and say, Shereen, I think it's this and this, whichever method that works best for you based on your device that you're using. So what should Marcus's goal be? So I see Calvary SDA says A.
A.
Sister McLean says A. I'm going to jot that down. So we have one more for A. And you can also choose multiple. You can do all the above. You could do ABC. You could do whatever you want. So I see Robert says A. Okay. We have Sister McDonald says A and B. All right.
A and B.
Lorraine says A and B. Okay. Who else wants to give it a shot? So remember, what is his goal? What did Sister McLean reach? He just moved. He's starting his own business. What should his goal be when he's writing this script? First, think about his goal. Does anyone else want to take a chance at it? All right, no one else. So far, I think we have a couple of A's. Brother Joseph said A. I missed that. Thank you, Brother Joseph. And we have 2 people that think it's A and B. Drum roll, please. It's A and B, right? So if you said A, good job. You just had to bring in the B as well. So he wants to generate interest and excitement. That's a part of his goal. So when he's writing his script of what he's going to say in this video, he has to think about, I want to introduce myself. I want to make sure people know about my work, and I want to get excitement because I want some new business, right? So he has to make sure he has that in his video as well. Great job, everyone. What questions do you have as to why anyone wants to challenge it or have me explain it anymore? You can use the raise hand or come off mute or put it in the chat. I'm going to take that as my cue to move to the next one. Okay, thank you. Who is Marcus's audience for this? Is it A, residential customers, B, commercial customers, C, handyman work, or all of the above? All right, so Brother Joseph said D. I believe it's Brother Joseph behind the mic there. It could be his wife for all I know, but we're going to say Joseph said D.
D.
There you are, Brother Joseph. Sister McLean, you said D. Robert says D. Okay. All right, we're going to throw in A just to add the variety. Okay. Sister McLean is like, boo. Who else want to take a stab at it? Right? Put it in the chat or come off mute. So we have some folks thinks all of the above, and we have 1A. A couple more seconds. Just give it a try. I'm not going to beat you over the head, but like, why'd you get that wrong?
A and B.
A and B. Thank you, Sister Lorraine. Okay. All right. So the answer is residential customers. Pastor, come off mute and tell us why you picked A.
It's just the way that he spoke. It didn't seem like he was not talking to a corporation, so he just spoke to residential. I mean, that's the voice that I heard would be one that would appeal to residential customer. Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
and it also said he's been doing this for 30 years for houses, for 30 years professionally, just homes, houses. All right. See, Sister McLean, I have to have you read it again. They weren't listening. Very nice. And then it's also, this is, if he knows who his audience is, he can focus his message, right? As Pastor said, it seemed more homely, seemed like more down to earth, because if he was doing for commercials, or commercial buildings, it would be a different type of video. All right, let's get to the next one. What is Marcus's topic? So he's, getting ready to write. He knows who his audience is. He has that part. He has a goal. What should his topic be, or what should his headline be? Is it buying the right paintbrush, fresh beginnings, painter for hire, or all of the above? So I have Sister McDonald says C, painter for hire. Who else wants to try and throw? All right, Calvary says C. Joseph says it could be B or C. Trick question. All right, we have C said it's a trick question. You still got to pick one though. Robert says C.
Yeah, I'll go with C.
All right, we have another C, painter for hire.
B and C.
When in doubt, always pick C. All right, okay. Who am I missing? Joseph, you unmuted. Go ahead. No? Oh, you did say B and C. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's see what the right answer is. Oh, didn't see that coming, did you? Wow. You want to talk about it, Robert? You're like, no. Well, who said B? Joseph, Brother Joseph, want to unmute and tell me why you were hedging between B and C?
Well, he's introducing himself as moving from one location, so it must be a new beginning.
Yes, yes. So that's a good topic, right? What? Go ahead, Sister Ruby. Did you want to share something?
No, I'm listening.
All right, thank you. So definitely, because he's moving to the new area. So if his video focuses around, okay, this is a fresh start for me. I'm new to the area. I'm coming from a different state. This is new to me. Fresh beginning sounds like a nice topic to have for him to use for his scripting. What key things does Marcus want to convey in his video? What are some key things that you think he should be focusing on in his video? Is it 30 years of experience, fresh start, low rates, D, fast, reliable service, or E, all of the above? What should he be putting in his video when he's writing his content? What are some things he should try to convey? Let's see, we have C says experience and fresh start. We have Calvary says E, all of the above. Sister McDonald said E.
I'm going to say A and B.
A and B, all right. I have, anyone else?
A and D.
A and, is that D as in dog?
Yes.
All right. Who else wants to try to take a guess at to what should he try to convey in his message? Robert, are you thinking?
I think we've got his hand with Sister Ruby. Sister Ruby, go ahead, chime in.
All of the above?
All of the above, so that'll be E, okay. Robert says E. Okay.
I can't remember if Sister McLean had said any bit about rates. So can I change to A, B, and D?
Okay, sure. A, B, and D, okay. All right, so I have C said in the chat, keep the messaging focused. I think all of the above would be too broad. So he's giving a little hint there. Ooh, okay. Drum roll, here's the answer. I think C is helping you guys out here. 30 years of experience and fresh start. That's the most things that he wants to convey in his, it's not about the low rates yet, right? It's not really about I'm fast and reliable and I'm the best guy in town. We don't know you, but let's talk about you being new and a fresh start. So let's start there. All right. What is Marcus's call to action? So what should, what does he want viewers to do at the end? So what do you think he should focus on when he's writing this script about his viewers and what he wants them to do at the end? Is it to share contact information, share his contact information, sorry, get a free quote today, question to the audience, or all of the above?
That's a tricky one.
Ah.
Yeah. Yes, it is tricky.
So if you ever watch YouTube videos, I'm going to give you a little hint. You always hear them say something, even pastors does it. I want you to like, subscribe. I want you to share, right? So what is it that you want people to do? And in my painter example, I know we're not all painters, but if, just take a guess at it. All right, so we have Sister Madonna says A, B, and B. Robert says B. We have B from Calvary.
A and B.
I heard Sister McLean said A and B. Joseph, one more time.
B.
B. All right. Anyone else?
A.
Sister Ruby, what was yours?
A.
A?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Are you ready? Okay. It's A and B. Who said A and B? Sister McLean is dancing, so it must be Sister McLean. But if you said A, you're also correct. And if you said B alone, you're also correct. So 2 things that he might want to have people do. He wants definitely to give out his information. So how am I going to reach you, Marcus, right? And then an enticement, a hook, right, to get them, because I like free stuff. So he's going to give me a free quote, definitely, so I want to definitely reach out to Mr. Marcus here for that. Sister McLean is winning today. All right, sounds good. What questions do you have about this example? Anything you want us to explore a little bit more before I show you an example? All right. So here's an example of a script that Marcus could potentially write. Now, is this the all end all be all script? No, you would make sure that you make it your own. So definitely we counted our words, not the words in red. The words in red are like what Brother St. Cloud does for a living, right? Add those images to your content. But for now, what the ones in black look like, it's 107 words. And if you go back to the previous slides, that's about 60 seconds or less, because I believe for 1 minute, it was 120 words in a script, making a minute. So right now we're hovering under that 60-second, which is really good for Marcus. And then you can see we're going to add some imagery, because just Marcus on the screen talking alone can be boring. So we want to add a picture of a weathered house. So if you see here, it says, I hear winters in the Northeast can do a number on our homes over time. That's his pulling you in. You're like, really? What? Why would you say that? So he's hooking you and you're like, what are you talking about, dude? And then he goes, well, you know what? Hey, my name is Marcus Smith. And it shows, he's looking in the camera. And over the last 30 years, I've been painting homes from Florida to Virginia, talking about his experience. Now that my family and I have settled here in Bridgewater, why do you think he pulls in the family? It goes back to what Pastor kind of said. He sounds like a nice guy, sounds like a really, homey guy. So yeah, he is. So he's pulling in that family because that's relatable. And you're more likely to go to a guy that has a family and, sounds like he's trustworthy. I see I have my work cut out for me, and that's the humor, right? He's showing a sense of humor. That's that emotional tug to make you laugh, or whatever that emotional, whatever we want to evoke from an emotional standpoint. The winters here are brutal. Thankfully, spring's around the corner, a chance for new beginnings, fresh start. To all my neighbors and soon to be friends, again, tugging at you, right? I look forward to share my knowledge and experience with you, from my family to yours. Show a family photo, so show that I'm personable. Here's to spring and a fresh start. And maybe this is where he shows his contact information and his free quote. So this is just a short example to kind of give you an idea of, it's not very hard to write a script, especially if you're aiming for 60 seconds or less. This is as much words as you need. So if you look at it from a context of, okay, I need to give an announcement at church. I'm going to pick on Sister Lori for health ministry. You can do this successfully under 60 seconds, grab the audience, tell them what you need to tell them, and close it and wrap it up, and you have yourself a 60-second video, which is really fast. You blink and the video is over. I remember Pastor posted one and I was like, no, I don't want it to end. You're like 45 seconds and I need more, right? So that's what you want your audiences to do. You want them to want more. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to go to your website. They're going to call you. They're going to do whatever they need to do to get that information, because you pull them in so well. Some last thing I want to do is to give you some pointers, and I'm going to open it up the floor for question and just to dive into maybe specifics that you would want to know about your program or your area of expertise that you are ministering over at the church. So tips for writing a script: make it conversational. Make it fun. That monotone, boring voice doesn't work anymore. You want to pull your audience in. A smile helps too when you're smiling. Your volume, if you're too low, no one's going to hear you. And then I'll be like, what? I always do this. Like, I'm watching something, if the TV's too low, I'm like, Shane, turn it up. I can't hear them. What are they saying? So you want to make sure that your volume is at the right area. And then you don't want to yell too much too. I mean, I'm a loud person overall, so I might be too loud for you right now. So just turn me down a little bit on your end. But that's something to think about as well. Tell a story that's relatable. I remember last time we talked about at the hospital where I work, we always start with a patient story. Now, a patient story is not necessarily relatable in your situation, so find something that is relatable but short. So you want to say something really quick. If you're talking about, again, the health ministry, you want to give a quick synopsis or a short nugget about something that's relatable to the audience that you can say, yes, I know what she's talking about. Oh yeah, that happened to my cousin, right? You want people to be able to connect the dots easily. Not just tell, but you want to show. And this is my favorite bullet, because I'm a visual learner. I'm not a necessarily auditory learner. If you show me, I'll remember it more. So you want to think about, how can I add any imagery to my information, whether it's a flyer that Brother St. Cloud created for your department, or whether you come up with your own visuals, but you want to have something to show the audience as you're talking. And the same applies the opposite way. You don't want to just make it visual, because I've seen that too, where it's just all visual and I'm not hearing anybody talk to me. And I'm just like, is somebody supposed to be saying something? Because I can't read all that. It's too much, right? And so you got to balance it, find a nice little balance, because your audience, and I didn't put this in there, but your audience can be of, forgive me, I can't remember all the levels, but it could be auditory, you know what? It could be ears, hearing, seeing. Does anyone know the other one? There's another one, but your audience is not just, one way. Some people need to hear it.
Kinesthetic is feeling, touching.
Yes, there you go. So for kids, there you go. They want to maybe touch it. So if you're able to be in person, maybe have a sample of something so people can feel and see it in person. So you have to think about your audience from that perspective too, if you can. Use simple vocabulary. See, I couldn't even pronounce the word I was trying to say. So find a word that makes sense, right? And that your audience can gravitate to, and that they won't be like, I need a dictionary, or I need to Google it because I have no idea what they've said, and now you've lost them. And if it's appropriate. Now, if your audiences are all medical professionals, then definitely go ahead and throw out your medical terms. But if they're non-clinical, non-medical professionals, you have to think about, what are the word choices that I'm going to use today? And then again, use a checklist. Grab their attention. Have I done that? Check. State the problem or the ask? Check. Give them activity, give them something to do if applicable? Check. And then call to action? Check. So create your own little handy checklist if needed as you're creating your script, because that's going to come in handy. And then the last thing I want you to do is to edit your script as needed. I've done children's stories many times, and it's not version 1 or 2 that you end up hearing at church. It's probably version 11, because we've edited it, we've gone over it. And then the second piece is even more critical. When I read it out loud, it don't sound right. So I got to do it over, right? So that's why I end up with 11 versions. I'm exaggerating, but you get the gist. So you want to make sure that you edit your script, make sure that it's what you want it to be, but read it out loud as well. Even if it's not going to be you doing the voiceover, or if it's not you on camera and you're doing it for someone else, make sure that you read it too, to make sure it sounds right. Check your timing. That's going to be critical, because if you think that you're about to do 60 seconds and you do 1 minute and 20, then you might be too over, or you might be, whatever, you might lose your audience at minute 30 seconds or so. So make sure you check your timing along the way. My favorite one is get feedback. This is critical, because sometimes I think something sounds great, and I'll check it with my 13-year-old. She's like, oh my gosh, mommy, that's boring. Really? It's boring? I didn't think so. I spent 3 hours on this. But you will definitely want to make sure that you check it with someone before you publish it. And so, is the message clear? Does the script make sense and achieve my intended goal? So way back when I said my goal was X, is it doing what I wanted to do? Are there words that I could change? Is there an opportunity to put simpler words in there, or add any more context to what I'm trying to say? And do I need to repeat anything? There's a saying, I'm going to get it wrong, but first in, first out, last in, last out. So there's some really technical terms that really go what I just said, but I don't remember them yet. But sometimes there are people who only remember the first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds of what you said. All that stuff in the middle, they don't remember. So do I need to repeat anything to emphasize anything for folks? And the first 30 seconds of your message should be the hook and the most important stuff that you want up front. Because again, people are going to tune out if you start to go down a road that they're like, okay, I don't want to hear anymore. So you want to get it up front immediately. It's almost like that elevator speech. I was in an elevator once with a CEO and I blew it. I knew I could have probably got hired for a different job, but I blew it. I didn't know what to say to him. I was like dumbfounded in the elevator. And they always say you always should have an elevator speech. That 30 seconds could have made me like rich or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's enough about me. But pretty much in a nutshell, that is all she wrote. That is the real simplified version of how you can get started with your script. And I promise you, let me go back to the sample script of Marcus. You can do this. You got this, guys. It's not as hard as you think. It's really just taking what's up here and putting it on paper. So if you say, I want to make an announcement about, an upcoming event, I'm going to look at Sister McLean, like an announcement about something. How do I do this so I engage the audience? And it's really just thinking about what is it I want to say? How do I want to say it? Do I have any visuals? And go from there.